A condemned highwayman is strapped into a cart, and the only man who can stop the execution is the man Paris swore never to trust again. Why is a former criminal walking straight into the city's most guarded gallows? By the end, you'll understand how Eugène-François Vidocq turned the underworld's codes, disguises, and betrayals into the blueprint for modern detective work, and why one notorious highwayman became the hinge point of his career. If Vidocq is right, an innocent man dies and the real gang keeps hunting the roads. If he's wrong, Paris hands power to a master con artist who knows every back door in the justice system. Was Vidocq a redeemed genius who saved lives, or a criminal strategist who simply learned to run the law from the inside? Paris, before dawn. A man in a dark coat is running, not away from the law. Toward it, he cuts through a narrow street where the gas lamps still burn. His breath smokes in the cold. Behind him, boots slap the stones. A patrol is closing fast. He reaches a wall. Two quick hands find the seam in the brick. He presses. A panel shifts. A hidden door opens. He slips inside. The door closes. The street is empty again. The patrol arrives. They stare at the wall like it lied to them. One of them spits. Another touches the bricks. Nothing. Inside, the man listens to the footsteps fade. Then he smiles. His name is Eugène-François Vidocq, and tonight he is both the hunted and the hunter. He will tell this story later as if he is confessing, but he tells it like a man demonstrating a trick. Because for Vidocq, escape is not an accident, it is a craft, and in the world he is about to build, craft becomes power. But what happens when the greatest escape artist in France decides to become the one who locked the doors? The event everyone remembers comes years after that hidden door. It happens in full daylight. A carriage jolts over the stones near the city's edge. Inside sits a merchant, pale with fear. Across from him sits a gentleman with calm eyes. The gentleman speaks softly. He calls the merchant by name. He names the merchant's mother's maiden name. He mentions a debt that was never written down. The merchant's hands shake. He thinks this is magic. It is not. It is reconnaissance. Then the gentleman removes his glove. There is ink on his fingers, stains that do not come out. He is not a gentleman. He is a highwayman dressed as one. The carriage stops. A pistol appears. No shot is fired. A pistol appears. No shot is fired. A watch is taken. A purse. A seal ring. And just before the merchant is thrown out onto the road, the highwayman leans close. He whispers one name. Vidocq. It is not a threat. It is a signature. The merchant lives. But the rumor does not. It spreads through Paris by lunchtime. The name becomes a ghost that rides the roads. Was Vidocq truly on that carriage, or was someone already using his reputation as a weapon? To understand why that name carries such weight, you have to go back to the beginning. Arras, a provincial town. A place where gossip travels faster than horses. Vidocq is born into a baker's family. Not rich, not starving. Respectable enough to be watched. As a boy, he learns two things: how to charm and how to steal. He steals from his own home first. Coins, silver, small things, then larger. He runs away. He comes back. He runs again. He fights. He lies. He laughs. He is not a tragic child. He is a storm in a human body. By his teens, he is in and out of trouble. He duels. He provokes. He seduces danger. as if it is a sport. Then the revolution arrives. France reorders itself with blood and paperwork, and a young man with quick hands finds new opportunities. Armies need recruits. Armies also need deserters. Armies create chaos. Chaos creates cover. Vidocq moves through it all, under names that change like shirts. He is soldier, deserter, swindler, sometimes all in the same week. But if he is always running, what exactly is he running toward? Vidocq doesn't start the story as a detective. He starts it as a fugitive with a talent for vanishing in plain sight. So who taught him the one thing that would later break the city's most protected criminal network? The first prison door closes on Vidocq with a sound that will follow him for years. The cell is damp. The air tastes of iron. Men cough in the dark. He should be afraid. Instead, he studies. He watches the guards. He watches the other prisoners. He watches how food arrives, how keys hang, how a man is counted. And he learns the prison's true weakness. It is not the locks. It is routine. He escapes. Not once. Again. He escapes not once. Again. He escapes in disguise. As a worker. As a sailor. As a policeman. Sometimes he walks out in plain sight. Sometimes he bribes. Sometimes he bluffs. Every escape leaves behind a story. Every story makes his legend taller. But legends attract attention. And attention attracts a different kind of hunter. At some point, the underworld stops seeing him as just another criminal. They start seeing him as a tool or a threat. And then the law begins to see him the same way. So when everyone wants to use you, who do you betray first? The highwayman's last ride isn't just a trip to the scaffold. It's a moving crime scene, and every witness on the route has a reason to lie. Which lie did Vidocq bet his life on? Forget the highwayman for a moment, because the most dangerous person in this story is the one holding the pardon, and he hasn't decided whether to sign it. Paris is the center of the new France. It is also a factory of desperation. People pour in. Work does not keep up. Bread prices rise. Rumors rise faster. The police are everywhere. And somehow, nowhere. There are uniforms. There are regulations. There are reports. There are prisons full of men who do not belong there. In the alleys, there is a different government. A government of thieves. They have rules, signals, safe houses, informants. Vidocq speaks their language. He can pass as one of them because he is one of them. He learns the gestures, the slang, the way a man checks a pocket without looking, the way a woman hides a blade in her sleeve. But the city is changing. Crime is becoming professional, and so is punishment. A man like Vidocq cannot stay lucky forever, and luck is not what he relies on. He relies on reading people. Yet what happens when he misreads the one person who can decide his fate? Quick recap. Here's what we know so far, and the one detail that still doesn't fit. The offer comes in a room that smells of old paper. A police office. A desk scarred by knives. Vidocq sits across from a man who thinks he has seen everything. The man is a chief, or a commissaire. The man is a chief, or a commissaire. The title matters less than the power. Vidocq, not beaten, not broken, just contained. He makes his pitch. He does not beg. He proposes. He says he can help the police do what they cannot. He can enter places the uniform cannot. He can hear what the law never hears. He can identify men who do not have names on paper. In exchange, he wants protection. He wants a kind of rebirth. The officer laughs, then stops laughing. Because Vidocq starts naming names, not the famous ones. The invisible ones, the ones who make the city bleed quietly. A silence stretches. The officer realizes he is listening to a map. And then the question becomes simple. Not whether Vidocq can help, but whether Vidocq can be controlled if the law turns a criminal into an instrument who is really holding the handle. Vidocq claims he can identify the real culprit without a confession, without fingerprints, and without a single honest witness. What proof could exist in a world built to leave none? Vidocq becomes something new, not fully free, not fully imprisoned. He becomes an informer, an agent, a man with permission to be close to criminals. He grows his hair a certain way. He changes his walk. He changes his walk. He changes his voice. He learns to disappear into crowds. When he enters a tavern, he does not scan the room like a policeman. He scans it like a thief. He orders like a man with a past. Because he has one. He befriends men who would kill him if they knew. He laughs at jokes about the police. Sometimes he even adds to them. He listens. He memorizes. He reports. Arrests follow. So do beatings. So do betrayals. The police like results. They do not like methods they cannot explain. Some officers admire him, others despise him. They call him a fox. They also call him a traitor. Vidocq does not flinch. He has been called worse by better people. But in a world of secret alliances, how long before the secret becomes the story? His greatest weapon is not strength. It is memory. He builds a private catalogue of faces, scars, hands, habits. He notices a man who always wears gloves indoors, a man who wipes his right thumb after touching a coin, a man who cannot read but always carries letters. He begins to mark patterns. He connects thefts across districts. He predicts where the next one will happen. And then he does something that will define modern policing. He insists that criminals can be identified systematically, not by rumors, by details. He pushes for files, for descriptions, for consistency. He understands that Paris is too big for memory alone, so he tries to turn memory into a machine. The city responds. Crime shifts. Criminals adapt. And they adapt in the oldest way. They look for the man behind the curtain. They look for Vidocq. When the underworld finally turns its full attention toward him, who will reach him first? The thieves, or the police who fear him? Paris hires Vidocq because he knows criminals, then panics when they start obeying him. What did he offer the underworld that the police never could? Now rewind to a different prison door, because Vidocq's first investigation begins with him begging to be locked inside. The unit forms quietly, not with trumpets, with paperwork. It is a small group at first, men without uniforms, men who do not look like the police. Some are reformed criminals. Some are criminals who claim they are reformed. They are the brigade. The Sûreté, a word that means safety. A promise the city barely believes. Vidocq leads them, not because the police love him, because he gets results. He trains his men in disguise, in patience, in listening. He tells them the truth. A thief is not always brave. A thief is often hungry. A thief is often proud. And pride can be pulled like a string. The Sûreté begins to bite. Pickpocket rings collapse. Fences are raided. Forgery shops vanish overnight. Paris notices. The papers whisper. The courts grumble because this new police work does not look clean. It looks like the underworld wearing a badge. And if the men who enforce the law come from the lawless, what keeps the new force from becoming the very thing it hunts? There is an arrest that becomes legend, not because of violence, because of theater. A notorious thief has vanished into the city. He is wanted for a string of robberies. He is careful. He is loved by his crew. Vidocq learns where he will be. A lodging house, a place of cheap beds and cheaper secrets. But Vidocq does not arrive as Vidocq. He arrives as a man in need. A man with a limp. A man with a story. He sits by the stove. He coughs. He complains about work. He wins sympathy. The thief enters. He looks around. He does not recognize the limping stranger. They speak. They share a drink. They share a laugh. Then Vidocq stands. The limp is gone. The hand on the thief's shoulder becomes a grip. The room freezes. The thief understands too late. The stranger was the trap outside. Men wait. The arrest is clean, quick, silent. Later, the thief will tell others, not to boast, to warn. But if Vidocq can become anyone, how can anyone be sure they are not already speaking to him? Quick recap. Here's what we know so far, and the one detail that still doesn't fit. The file says highway robbery, but the pattern of victims tells a different story. Someone is selecting targets with information only an insider would have. So who inside the system is feeding the roads with names? Success creates enemies. Inside the police and outside it, traditional officers hate his freedom. They hate that he bends rules they must follow. They hate that he makes them look slow. Judges question his credibility. They do not like a witness with a criminal past. Politicians fear scandal. They fear the idea that the state depends on a man like Vidocq. And criminals fear him most. Criminals fear him most. Some try to bribe him. Some try to join him. Some try to kill him. There are attempts. A knife in a crowd. A poisoned drink. A setup in a narrow street. He survives. Not always elegantly, but always alive. He keeps working, because work is his disguise too. If he stops moving, he can be hit. But survival changes a man. It hardens the eyes. It shortens patience. How long can Vidocq stay on the edge without falling to one side? Then comes the story of the bird, or what people call the bird, because the underworld loves a nickname. He is a highwayman, a rider, a man who appears on roads like a shadow. He strikes fast. He vanishes. Witnesses describe him differently. Some say he wears a fine coat. Some say he is dressed like a laborer. Some swear he is two men. But they agree on one detail. He whistles. A short, sharp sound. Like a signal. Like a bird call. After the whistle, an ambush happens. A carriage slows. A rider appears. A purse disappears. The bird does not kill unless forced. That restraint makes him more frightening. It suggests control. The papers begin to print the nickname. The city begins to romanticize him. And Vidocq begins to hear something worse. Some criminals are claiming the bird is protected. Some say the bird is protected by the police. Is the bird simply a clever thief, or is he proof that someone is playing both sides again? Vidocq's secret weapon isn't a badge, it's a disguise, and it works so well that even his own men can't always tell where he is. How do you lead a police unit when no one knows which face is yours? Pause the chase. Someone just recognized Vidocq, and the recognition doesn't come from the police. Vidocq takes the bird personally, not because of stolen money, because of stolen order. Highway robbery is public. It makes citizens feel helpless. It mocks the state. The prefect demands results. The pressure comes down like a boot. Vidocq does what he always does. He enters the rumor stream. He talks to innkeepers, stable boys, fences, women who wash clothes for criminals, men who pretend they are honest. He hears the same pattern. The bird strikes near certain roads, near certain choke points, near places where a rider can escape into fields. He learns another detail. The bird knows the patrol schedules too well. Vidocq's stomach tightens, because that means either the bird is brilliant or someone is leaking. And if someone is leaking, is it a coward selling information or a rival trying to bring Vidocq down? Vidocq sets a trap, not with uniforms, with bait. A decoy carriage is arranged. A strongbox is placed inside. It is heavy. It is loud when it moves. Two men ride within. One is a police agent. The other is Vidocq, disguised, not as a policeman. As a merchant on the road, the world feels too open. Fields on both sides, a thin line of trees ahead. Then the whistle, sharp, close. A horse bursts from the trees. A rider in a dark coat, a scarf hiding the lower face. The pistol is there, not shaking. Confident, the rider speaks. The voice is calm, almost polite. Vidocq keeps his hands visible. He acts afraid. He lowers his eyes. He waits for one mistake. The bird leans toward the carriage, and in that second, Vidocq sees something. A small mark on the hand. A scar, a sign. Recognition hits him like a slap. He knows this man. Not from the road, from Paris, from somewhere close. So if Vidocq knows the bird, why has the bird not already been caught? The beer gang doesn't fear prison, they fear exposure, because one true identity would collapse the whole operation. Which name on Vidocq's list could trigger a war in the streets? Back in the city, Vidocq pulls at threads. Quietly. Because now he does not trust the room. He checks old arrest notes, old descriptions, old aliases. He thinks of men who can ride, men who can speak like a gentleman, men who can vanish. He thinks of a former soldier, a deserter, a man with manners learned in someone else's house. He thinks of a thief who once worked as a courier, a man who knows routes and timing. Then he thinks of something else, the bird's restraint. The bird's prescience, the bird's confidence. Confidence comes from leverage or protection. Vidocq tests the system. He leaks a false patrol schedule, only to a small circle. Days later, the bird strikes exactly where the false schedule would leave an opening. Vidocq feels cold because now it is certain someone near him is feeding the bird. But who is closer to Vidocq than the men he trusts to hunt with him? Quick recap. Here's what we know so far, and the one detail that still doesn't fit. A witness comes forward at the last possible moment, but their story only makes sense if Vidocq is lying about where he was. Why would the man chasing the truth plant a false trail? Switch scenes. The beer aren't hiding in alleys tonight. They're sitting at tables, wearing clean coats, and counting money like accountants. Suspicion turns the Sûreté into a room full of mirrors. Every glance means something. Every silence feels loud. Vidocq watches his own agents. He watches who drinks with who leaves early, who asks too many questions. He hates this part. He built the unit to hunt criminals, not to hunt itself. But he knows the underworld. He knows how it recruits. It does not always buy loyalty. Sometimes it buys fear. Sometimes it buys fairly. A man with a sick child. A man with debt. A man with a past that can be exposed. Vidocq also knows something else. When an organization is young, it is fragile. One scandal can kill it, and he can feel eyes on him from above. Waiting, hoping. If Vidocq exposes the leak, does he save the Sûreté, or does he hand his enemies the proof they need to destroy him? He chooses a second trap, a more personal one. This time, Vidocq rides himself, not in a carriage, on a horse, with a small purse that looks heavy. He takes a road the bird favors. He rides at the hour the bird likes. He carries himself like a man worth robbing. He is alone. At least, he appears to be. In the distance, a rider follows. Then falls back. Then follows again. The countryside is quiet. Too quiet. The whistle comes. Closer than before. The bird steps into the road. Horse, sideways. Blocking. Confident. Vidocq stops. He raises his hands. The performance begins. The bird approaches, and Vidocq speaks a name. Not loudly. Just enough. The bird hesitates. A flicker. In that flicker, Vidocq reaches, not for a weapon, for the scarf. The scarf is yanked. The face is revealed. And the face is not a stranger. So why would the bird risk showing himself to Vidocq unless he believes Vidocq cannot act? The highwayman swears he never worked with the bear, yet someone used his methods with surgical precision. If he didn't teach them, who did they learn from? The bird bolts. The horse surges. Dirt kicks up. Vidocq's horse leaps forward. The chase begins. No city walls now. No alleyways. Only open land. And speed. They cut through a stand of trees. Branches whip. Hooves thunder. The bird knows the ground. He takes a narrow path. He tries to lose Vidocq in the brush. Vidocq stays close. He does not shout. He does not waste breath. Then the bird does something unexpected. He turns. Not fully, just enough. A pistol flashes. A shot cracks. The bullet misses, but the message hits. This is not a game. Vidocq pushes harder. He is no longer acting. The path narrows. A drop appears ahead. A small ravine. A place where a horse can break a leg. The bird jumps it. Barely. Vidocq reaches the edge. His horse bunches. Leaps for a second. They are weightless. And when they land, Vidocq feels something tear. Not in the saddle. In his body. A sharp pain. He almost falls. He recovers. He keeps riding, but if Vidocq is injured out here, far from help, what stops the bird from turning back and finishing it? The bird does turn back, not to finish him. To speak. He pulls his horse to a stop at a distance. He watches Vidocq struggle to stay upright. The bird calls out, not a shout, a statement. He says Vidocq should stop. He says this hunt will end badly. He says Vidocq does not understand who is truly in danger. Vidocq answers with a laugh that has no humor. He says the bird is already caught, not by rope, by identity. The bird is silent. Then he says something that lands like poison. He says Vidocq cannot bring him in, because doing so would expose the leak, and exposing the leak would expose Vidocq's own methods. For a moment, the countryside feels like a courtroom. Only there is no judge, no audience, no protection. Vidocq realizes the bird is not only robbing roads, he is robbing the Sûreté's legitimacy. He is daring Vidocq to choose justice or survival. If Vidocq arrests the bird and destroys his own unit in the process, is it still a victory? Vidocq keeps a private ledger of informants, bribes, favors, and debts, and it's more powerful than any courtroom testimony. What happens when that ledger becomes the real throne of Paris? Hold that thought, because the evidence Vidocq trusts most is something you can't submit to a court without exposing your informant to murder. The bird rides off, not in panic, in control. Vidocq returns to Paris in pain. He hides the limp behind anger. He calls his men. He gives orders. He watches faces. He does not announce what he knows. He cannot. Not yet. Instead, he sets a quiet operation, a watch on a certain stable, a watch on a certain tavern, a watch on a certain courier route. He chooses a few agents he trusts most. Then he tests them too, because trust in Vidocq's world is always provisional. The watchers report. A man arrives late at night, a man with mud on his boots, a man who pays in small coins, a man who whistles under his breath without realizing. Vidocq now has a place, a time, and a pattern. But if the leak is inside the Sûreté, how can he move without the bird hearing every step? Quick recap. Here's what we know so far, and the one detail that still doesn't fit. The next strike is planned, not by the bird, by Vidocq. A rumor is planted in the underworld. A wealthy traveler will ride with jewels. A foolish man, an easy mark. The rumor is designed to spread. But it is also designed to be traced. Vidocq tells it to one man, then another. Each version has a small change, a different road, a different hour, a different description. He waits. When the bird appears, Vidocq will know which version reached him, and by that, he will know who passed it. It is a cruel method. It treats his own agents like suspects. But the bird has forced cruelty into the system. The day arrives. The fake traveler rides. Vidocq watches from a distance. Hidden. Silent. The whistle comes. The bird appears on the road Vidocq predicted. At the hour Vidocq predicted. Now Vidocq knows. The leak has a name, and it sits close. So what does Vidocq do to a man who helped build the Sûreté and then sold it from the inside? The police want a public hanging to prove they're in control, but Vidocq wants a quiet arrest to prove he's right. Which outcome does Paris actually need more? Justice or theater? Vidocq does not arrest the leak immediately. He uses him. He lets the leak think he is safe. He lets him deliver information. He lets him stay close to the bird. Because Vidocq wants more than an arrest. He wants the network. He wants every rider, every fence, every safe house. It is a dangerous patience. It risks more robberies, more fear, more victims. At night, Vidocq lies awake. He hears the bird's words again. "You cannot bring me in." In the morning, Vidocq puts on a steady face. He becomes the director again, the man in control. He plans the final ride, not on the open road, but at the bird's nest. He has a location now, a farmhouse beyond the city, a place where stolen goods are sorted, a place where horses are swapped. He chooses the night. He chooses the men. He chooses silence. But if Vidocq raids the nest and the bird escapes, will the bird vanish forever or come back with a vengeance? The raid begins under a moon that looks thin as a knife. The farmhouse sits alone, a dark shape in dark fields. Vidocq's men approach in pairs. No shouting, no lanterns. Only the soft sound of boots in grass. Vidocq is at the front. He checks the window. He sees movement, a shadow crossing a wall. He signals. 2 men move to the back, 2 to the stable, 1 to the road. Vidocq reaches the door. He listens. He hears low voices. Coins. Metal. A laugh. He pushes in. The door swings. A moment of stunned faces, then chaos. Someone reaches for a weapon. Vidocq lunges. He strikes the hand. The weapon falls. A man runs for the back. An agent tackles him. Another man dives through a side door. Vidocq shouts once. Not anger, command. In the stable, horses scream. In the house, men curse. And then, through it all, the whistle. Inside the farmhouse. Not outside. The bird is here. But is he trapped? Or is this farmhouse just another stage he has prepared? A single detail in the highwayman's last ride doesn't match official procedure, and it's the kind of mistake only a collaborator would dare. So who touched the execution route before the cart ever rolled? Stop imagining a lone genius, because Vidocq's methods only work if his own men are willing to commit crimes in the name of stopping them. Vidocq sees the bird. A dark coat, a scarf, the same calm posture. The bird does not charge. He steps back. He watches the room. He calculates. Vidocq moves toward him. Slow. Like a man approaching a wild animal. The bird speaks. He says Vidocq is too late. He says the goods are already moved. He says the nest is empty. Vidocq answers. He says he did not come for goods. He came for the rider. The bird's eyes shift to a window, to a back door, to a beam overhead. Vidocq realizes something. The bird is not looking for escape. He is looking for an opening to turn the raid into a disaster. Then a shot. Not from the dock, not from the bird, from somewhere in the confusion. The room jolts, men duck, fire licks up dry straw. Suddenly, the farmhouse is not just a crime scene, it is a burning trap. In the smoke, Vidocq grabs for the bird. He catches cloth. The bird twists, slips. Vidocq's hand closes on air. If the bird escapes into the night while the building burns, does Vidocq chase the criminal or save the men who followed him? Vidocq chooses the men. He orders them out. He drags one agent who is coughing. He shoves another toward the door. Outside, the fire grows. It crackles like laughter. The bird appears at the edge of the light. Already mounted. Already ready. He looks back. For a second, his face is visible, not triumphant. Almost sad. Then he whistles, and two riders emerge from the dark. A rear guard, a shield. Vidocq cannot follow. Not now. Not with smoke in his lungs and men on the ground. The bird rides away, the last ride of the night. A shadow dissolving into fields. At dawn, the farmhouse is a black shell. In the ash, Vidocq finds proof of a network. Names, marks, roots, but no bird. And in Paris, the story becomes a weapon. The papers call it a failure. His rivals inside the police call it proof. Proof that Vidocq's methods are reckless. Proof that his unit is uncontrollable. If the bird has escaped again, was that the bird's victory, or the beginning of Vidocq's fall? Quick recap. Here's what we know so far, and the one detail that still doesn't fit. Vidocq's unit starts solving cases faster than the courts can process them, and suddenly success looks like sabotage. Who benefits when the truth arrives too quickly to be believed? The inquiry begins. It always does. Men in clean coats ask dirty questions. Why was there a raid without uniforms? Why were former criminals involved? Who fired first? Why did the building burn? Vidocq answers carefully. He chooses words like tools, but he can feel the room. They do not want truth. They want a conclusion. And there is another problem. The leak. Vidocq could expose him. He could name him. He could show how the bird was protected. But that confession would reveal the Sûreté's veins. It would show how information moves. It would show how Vidocq manipulates the underworld. The city might not forgive it. The ministry might not survive it. So Vidocq holds back. He accepts blame in vague shapes. He protects the institution he created, even as it is used against him. Meanwhile, the bird keeps riding, at least in rumor. So what does a man like Vidocq do when the truth would save his name but destroy his life's work? Vidocq resigns, or is pushed. In history, it is often both. He steps away from official power, but he does not step away from the city. Because Vidocq does not know how to be ordinary, he opens a private bureau. A place where merchants come with missing goods, where husbands come with missing wives, where banks come with missing money. He becomes a different kind of hunter, still in the shadows, now paid directly. The police watch him, some with jealousy, some with relief. Criminals watch him too, because even without a badge, Vidocq still has something. Information, contacts, memory. And somewhere on the roads outside Paris, the bird remains a moving target. Vidocq's name becomes a story again. The thief who became the policeman who became the private detective. And through it all, the question remained. Did Vidocq ever truly change sides? Or did he simply learn to profit from every side? Years pass. Paris modernizes. Streets widen. Gaslight improves. Paperwork multiplies. But the underworld persists. It changes costumes, not instincts. Vidocq ages. He gains weight. He loses speed. He keeps his eyes. He writes, or dictates, memoirs, stories, confessions that read like performances. Some call him a hero. Some call him a fraud. Some call him a criminal who never stopped. The bird becomes part of this haze, sometimes reported dead, sometimes seen again. Always uncertain. Yet the idea of the bird matters more than the man. A thief with elegance. A robber with restraint. A rival who knows too much. Vidocq's legacy grows in strange ways. Future detectives will borrow his tricks. Future writers will borrow his myth, but Vidocq himself remains haunted by one unresolved crime. A chase that ended in fire. A face he recognized. A criminal he could not deliver. So in the end, was the bird Vidocq's greatest failure, or the one opponent who understood him perfectly?